let me tell you something, right? You know, a lot of soulful beings that are chosen ones, aka otherworldly futuritarian beings, the spiritual beings of the angel number multiverses, man, they don't talk to their non-spiritual biological relatives. Why? Because the non-spiritual biological relatives who just focus on the rat race and just repeat the same process that the fucking demonic narcissistic slave owners want them to repeat, to stress over bills and tax, pay extra money for funerals that don't do shit for the ecosystem. You know, and spiritual beings, they always have their ideas undermined by their own non-spiritual biological relatives. It's fucking sad. And the spiritual relatives, right? The spiritual relatives, they always gotta deal with the fear-based way of thinking from their non-spiritual relatives, man. And look, man, the non-spiritual relatives that be in these old age and new age spiritualities, that's none but toxic positivity that don't do shit to end bills and tax. The fear-based talk, right? Let's say, for example, right? Look, I could be very close to a non-biological being, that is soul family, spiritual family to me, right? You know, they can always talk to me about anything and share anything and never have to worry about me talking fear-based stuff, talking about, oh man, we ain't never gonna be able to do this, you know, because we got to pay all this extra stuff. You know, that's fear-based thinking. When my spiritual family is talking to biological relatives that's not spiritual like me, they always got to hear fucking fear-based talk from them. Talking about they not able to do this, but they be the same ones preaching about Jesus, Lord Yashin, Jehovah. Why don't Jehovah and Jesus and Lord Yashin make a way for you people? That's why I hate you fucking non-spiritual beings. You don't see shit the way a spiritual being see. You don't. Look, man, my fucking chakras is rising. Look, man, this type of talk here is something that a lot of spiritual beings be putting up with for the longest, yo. A lot of spiritual beings put up with the longest. I'd be damned if I ever went through shit like that, man. You know, I'd be damned. You know, I'd be damned. You know, I mean, I wouldn't be able to imagine to have non-biological. I wouldn't be able. Let me repeat that. What I meant to say is I couldn't imagine to have biological relatives that don't come to me for advice and they feel so good afterwards and they feel all this soulful frequencies just, you know, healing them and they ain't worried about no bills and tax. You know, I couldn't imagine this stuff, man. So I feel for spiritual beings that have biological relatives that just undermine their soul talk to destroy fear-based way of thinking, and their biological relatives don't even want to hear shit from their spiritual biological relative, man. I get it, man. I feel that shit, man. I feel it, bro. I feel it, man. I feel it, man. I feel it, sis. I feel it. I feel you, goddesses and god stars that are spiritual family, and you can't really talk to your biological relatives that's not spiritual like you, that don't come from the same ancestry line of the chosen ones, and they kind of just fit in the rat race because they just go with whatever convenient, and they don't question the slave owner narcissistic judicial system that just take money away from the fucking humanoids. Even animals can see past this shit. Really? I'm just saying, man. Yo, what's up, soul family? So check this out, man. When it comes to like your biological relatives that's not spiritual beings, and you're the spiritual being of your biological relative tree, right? Check this out. You know, you can have a lot of biological relatives that's not spiritual, and they know that you are intelligent, by the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, you don't fit in the fucking matrix, right? They never come to you for advice for anything, but they say that you are intelligent, right? Why is that? Usually, if individuals truly, genuinely see that you are highly intelligent, they will come to you advice for everything, and they will always talk to you all the time, right? But those particular biological relatives, they don't even realize when they're in front of a spiritual being, because they're not a spiritual being themselves, right? It's just like, yo, man, spiritual beings, every time they come across, their non-spiritual biological relatives, always overtalk them. They always overtalk their spiritual relative for nothing. And every time the spiritual relative speaks, they just shut the spiritual relative down, man. Like, it's bullshit, yo. Like, for example, like, you can have these biological relatives, right? And I'm talking about humanoids, because the humanoids on planet Earth have this issue. Especially, man, like, the humanoids on planet Earth have this issue when we talking like biological relatives, because the biological relatives that fit in the matrix, right? Check this out. You can have biological relatives that be with this new age spirituality or old age spirituality, worshiping a particular entity or some shit like that. Talking about Lord Yashin, Lord Jesus, make a way or whatever. Or be at these churches where they be having these funerals where the pastors be preaching and stuff. Okay, your biological relatives will sit there and like literally hear like pastors and etc. speak a good game on things are going to get better. But then when they're not at the church or after a funeral happens, right, spending all that fucking money on some damn funerals, and then they come back to go into their daily matrix life, stressing over bills and tax from the place that they are living at, man. Paying like over $1,000 to get a new tire fix or whatever. You feel me? And then they're stressing to their spiritual biological relative, talking about, man, I just can't be able to do this, man. Like, it's too much on me. But then when their spiritual biological relative try to speak, they don't want to hear it. Trust me. I know what a lot of spiritual, soulful beings be feeling. You know what I'm saying? And man, come on, man. And don't come at me for this shit. This is some real deep gems right here. Because the same biological relatives who'll be trying to get this good game from these old age and new age false spiritualities by the slave owners, when they get back to their daily life in the matrix, the rat race, stressing over bills and fucking tax, and don't want to take advice from the spiritual relative to be able to fight to get their own land and to be able to thrive and work on their own fucking powers. A lot of biological relatives that ain't spiritual for shit, they need to fucking do inner work. They need to do some fucking shadow work. It's some real gems right now. Look, I can tell you this. A lot of spiritual beings like myself, they have biological relatives, whether it's a brother, a sister, or uncle, or auntie, or whatever, mom and dad, and they're not spiritual as them. Those biological relatives, they ain't spiritual. They don't really come to their spiritual relative for advice on anything. Look, I mean,